Welcome to Range World, the podcast where life, development, leadership, growth, intentionality, and experience come into balance right before your very ears. And now, here's your tour guide into Range World, the president of Get Life in Balance, Rain Kansman.
All right, welcome back to Rain's World, and today I have the privilege of Kay Hughston joining me, and we're going to talk about employee engagement, but let me introduce Kay for you. She is an executive human resources professional with more than 25 years of experience in matters impacting people relations and business for several Fortune 200 companies. She successfully established partnerships and mutually beneficial collaborations and connections in professional and personal relationship settings. Kay's ability to envision and deliver desired outcomes has been demonstrated in each of her generalist roles and in capability developed early in life during several of her early career endeavors. She's created plans and strategies positively impacting employee engagement, which we're going to discuss today, overall diversity, and help leaders create inclusive environments. She has revamped processes and systems for talent strategies, including talent acquisition, talent and performance management, and succession planning. Kay has also helped several leading organizations build strong HR business partner model that strengthen the relationships with internal clients and improved HR's delivery of service and support. She's creative, driven, relationship-oriented, and has a bias towards continuous improvement. She began her career and love of working with people and relationships while serving in the U.S. Army. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
After obtaining her BA in English from Pennsylvania State University.
After
transitioning from the Army, she secured her first professional role in human resources and worked to complete her MBA from Eastern University in St. David, PA. Kay has worked for such iconic brands as Home Depot, Target, Crayola, and Cisco Foods. That's where she and I met.
Yep.
She currently works as an executive HR for one of the world's largest security companies, supporting a team of over 10,000 employees. Welcome, Kay.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, it's so good to be here. It's so good to be here. I've missed you. Our time at Cisco was just fantastic, and you definitely left an impression on me. So I'm glad we were able to reconnect.
Well, I am too. I hope it was a positive impression.
It definitely was.
Okay, good. So
Most
let me kick you off with a couple of questions. When you talk about engagement, what do you mean? What's involved for you?
Yeah. I think when I think about the employee engagement overall, I'm really just talking about what that employee's experience is within the organization, right? So, and I'm talking about providing for that employee everything that they need to succeed and to stay.
Okay.
And that's the end game in my book as it relates to what the employee experience and employee engagement is all about. And we've read articles around just how impactful having an engaged workforce can be on the bottom line for business. And so I think all of that holds true. But when you really start to unpack what are the ingredients for creating an engaging workplace and an engaging experience for your employees, I think there are certain drivers. And so I think one of those drivers is meaningful work.
Yeah.
What's the perception of the work that I'm doing for this business? Does it mean something to me? Is it helping, someone else in some meaningful way? Is there a sense of freedom and autonomy in this work? And is that a match for my work style? Thinking about, is it an interesting job? Is the workload manageable? Do I actually feel like I can achieve, the work that's being asked of me and do that well. So meaningful work, I'd say, is definitely one of those key ingredients and one of those drivers. I'd also argue that aligned beliefs is important one. So thinking about, do we have a culture that inspires people to do great things and to really get on board with the mission? Do we have good communication? Do I feel like I'm informed as as an employee, and does the organization feel that that is also important, that they have good communication with their employees? Are they aligned with me in believing those things? And what about diversity and inclusion? You know, we hear so much talk about it in recent days, and I'm loving the attention that it's getting. My hope is that this continues beyond, you know, just the recent very, you know, impactful events that have happened around the world, and that we continue this conversation, this discourse around inclusion and diversity and equity, because I think it's an important one. But I do appreciate all the attention it's getting today. But does the organization that I'm a part of also value that as an aligned belief?
Yeah.
And then I'd say an enabling workplace, right? So we talk about engagement, but the partner to engagement is enablement. So because someone can be highly engaged in an organization, but if they're not enabled to do their job, they don't have the tools, the equipment, the resources, if they're not also working side by side with talented team members, then they can actually become frustrated and ultimately disengaged.
Right.
Are there growth opportunities? You know, do we have good programs in place to help employees, you know, perform optimally, right? And continue to develop them, and thinking about opportunities for advancement for themselves in their career. Does the organization prioritize those things and have offerings in that space? And then total rewards, you know, thinking about, you know, beyond competitive pay, you know, benefits, you know, is there this rewards and recognition culture? And how is that handled? And is it individualized? And is it meaningful? And is it tied to any of the values? And then finally, I would say from an employee experience perspective, work-life harmony. And so I certainly know we, in the wake of the pandemic and all this remote work and all these conversations around hybrid workplaces, that you know, that's a question top of mind for a lot of people. You know, I've certainly seen turnover in my organization. I've heard about it in people that I are within my network that they're grappling with now, as organizations try and figure this out. You know, they want to take advantage of these very expensive buildings that they've built and all that they've invested in them, and they want the teams to come together and have that collaboration where necessary. But how do we balance that against what the needs of uh, today's employee, what they're looking for, right, at certain levels? So do we offer flexibility? You think about other things like mental health resources, right? So how are we helping, um, how are we really thinking about the employee and truly keeping them as the center of everything we're doing inside that organization and the way what we're offering? And it can't just be for HR to figure that out. Every leader in that building, in that business, has to be thinking about the experience of their employees. Again, what the employee will need to succeed and what will help them to stay.
Yeah. Wow. So I love several things you just said there. And wow, that's a lot when you start putting all that together, right? Specific rewards for individuals because not everybody's,
Right,
right,
right. That's right.
motivated the same way. And having the leaders on board, not just, it's just not an HR initiative, right?
Right.
This is a company initiative. And I can tell you how many times I would run leadership or management programs and it's okay, we're in the middle of the we're having a great time. And somebody says, yeah, Rain, I won't be able to do this when I go back. They just don't believe in this. And I'm,
Wow.
oh my,
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess I needed to start a little higher, right?
Yeah. Lessons
So,
learned.
yeah, absolutely. So what are some of the benefits that a leader would have? I mean, we will certainly understand what an employee would have with that type of thing, but what are some of the benefits that a leader would have? Because this is not as easy necessarily for a leader to just say, hey, just do this, do that, here's what you get, take it or leave it. What's the
Yeah.
benefits a leader would get out of an
Well,
engaged organization or team?
absolutely. And I think it's an enterprise object. It has to be an enterprise-wide objective to want to create this space for the employee, right? So leadership has to be on board that this is going to be a priority, and these are the things we're going to try and do to create this experience for our employees. HR, you know, senior executives, and then the managers themselves have to buy into what these offerings are, right, to create this experience. And I think the managers can have as a benefit an employee that's much more satisfied in the work that they do, that has a desire to want to stay and continue to contribute to the business because they want to be able to take advantage of all these experiences that they're having, right? That are meeting their needs, and in some areas perhaps exceeding their needs. Um, and it helps the leader perhaps have an employee that's going above and beyond. It's not just doing the bare minimum, getting the job done. That's bringing true value to the position, and really bringing their whole selves to work, and is truly invested and motivated to give their very best to the work that they have at hand. And who doesn't want a highly motivated
Oh, yeah.
employee that's truly invested in the work that they're doing, that wants to do a great job, that wants to be. There's just such a difference. You just can't almost explain, the experience when you have an employee that's so disengaged, and they're questioning every time they come to work. Why am I here? This place isn't for me. And as much as they might try and hide it, it's very apparent parent versus, employee who's all in. And, this is where I want to be. This is a place where I can shine. This is a place where, again, you've shown me that we're aligned on so many fronts, and that you're caring about me as a person, as an individual, as someone trying to grow my career, my experiences, and that you're viewing me as a whole person. You think about, like I said, those work-life harmony attributes that are part of that framework. It lets them know that you truly care about them, and I can't tell you how much I try and encourage my leaders to develop a relationship with your team members, and let them know that you care about them beyond the work that they do. Share a bit of yourself with them as well, right? So that they get to know you, and you have that relationship and that rapport, and you make the workday, and the work that you do so much more meaningful. And again, I don't see how a leader can go wrong with trying to make some investments and making a better experience. Because leaders control, 70% of the atmosphere, of a workplace, overall. So they have a huge opportunity to really kind of, set the climate, if you will, for what this is going to feel like beyond some of the offering that we might be able to provide as an organization. But what's that day-to-day interaction look like with the manager? They are so instrumental and so pivotal into keeping that for that person. Because we can offer all of these things and have a terrific experience, but if that manager is not engaged and not, bought into wanting to create this good experience for their employees, they're not going to even allow them to make time or to invest in some of what the company offers, because they're going to be so focused and myopic in their view around getting the work done, that they're forgetting, all these other things that are part of the overall employee experience. If we think about employees like we do customers, and if we have our leaders look at our employees in that same light, it's very, very similar, right? We want to do everything we can to satisfy our customers, to keep them engaged and coming back for more. Why can't we have a bit of that same perspective and same philosophy in our approach to how we handle our employees and how we treat them and care for them?
Wow, powerful stuff. So again, I love these conversations because they bring up thoughts in me, and I hope you don't mind.
Yeah.
But one of them was, first of all, thank you for talking about whole life and work balance, with my life and balance there. I
Yes,
appreciate that.
yes, yes.
And then secondly, I remember doing distinctly, I was doing, just started up a sales management course, right?
Okay.
And I was, and we had the sales people in right after that. And one of the most damaging statements I heard is I said, hey, we're creating this sales management course. What ideas and things from your standpoint do you think we need to work on?
Mhm.
And how many salespeople said, well, we know how much our managers love our customers,
Mhm.
but I have no idea how much they love me.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? And I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness. Wow. So your statement is absolutely, if we could learn to treat them like we treated, because they were certainly a customer driven organization.
Mhm.
But yeah, and I think sometimes managers can't get out of the way of their own egos at times, and
Absolutely.
that's when they don't embrace this kind of idea and concept. But
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
many benefits.
Absolutely. There's
Yeah,
no downside here. So
yeah. So I have one more question for you.
yeah, yeah.
Um, as a new leaders that might be listening to this, What are some things that they can do to start to expand their knowledge on engagement, employee engagement?
Mhm.
Small steps.
Yeah, certainly there are no shortage of articles and literature on the topic. So maybe starting with just trying to become a little bit more curious as a leader and being a little bit more committed to researching and learning more about this. And even if your organization doesn't necessarily offer any information on the topic, you can Google it, and some really good things will come up that will give you some idea of what employees are looking for from an employee experience, and what leaders can do to really foster that type of environment. So I'd say demonstrate some curiosity and some commitment to learning. I'd say it was definitely um, part of the equation. But then maybe talking with your HR partner. What do we offer? How are we packaging our experience to employees, and get a little bit more curious about that. Get a little closer to understanding. How do we brand ourselves? What's on the employee page when people come to the career page and look for jobs? What are we saying about our values and our culture, and what we're looking for in talent, and what our commitments, our employee value proposition are to employees, and are we making good on that? I'd say they can always look to data inside the company. There probably has been some type of engagement survey, maybe a exit or new hire survey. That's rich to have that information. So if a leader is perhaps over a certain group, maybe partner with HR to see, what's the data told that's been received so far? What does it say about folks in my work group, and then maybe about the company overall, and how they're feeling about engagement? What are our engagement scores? How much participation did we have in the last survey? What are our team members who currently exist with us? What do they say we need to get better at, or that we're great at and we need to continue to do more of? So there's a lot of information, I think, really at the fingertips of a leader. And so start with the organization. Consider the inventory of experiences that might currently exist. Partner with HR. Find some data and try and get your hands on some of that, especially in engagement data. I don't know many organizations that haven't done that. Even if it's not annually, at least they may be doing it every 2 years or so, or some pulse surveys. And so that's always a good place to start to just kind of understand where you are right now in your organization's journey towards that.
Wow, some great ideas there. I too was a real fan of the employee engagement surveys.
Mhm.
Yeah, there were so many great ideas, and it gave you a place to start at
Yeah,
least, right?
yeah,
To look at
exactly.
things and okay, this is an area which was our lowest opportunity or our biggest opportunity.
Right.
Let's
Yeah.
start there, and what can we small steps that we can do, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And focus groups, those are easy, right? So you're spending one-on-one time with your direct reports and talking to them about, what's it feel like here for you, and maybe some of them will be willing to open up with you about that. And some of them might be a little bit more hesitant, especially when it doesn't feel all good for them. But some of your leaders might be willing to tell you, even if they're sharing with you what they say they heard across the business, when they might be actually channeling some of what they're actually thinking and feeling themselves. So it's all about the approach. If I think if you're interested in learning more about it, that to me is the kind of step one. Become curious and be committed to learning.
I love that. I love that. Focus groups too was another thing for me. Was it's not just wonderful for the people that get invited as team members, but the
Yes,
leader.
yes,
I mean, you could get if you become vulnerable
that's right.
and open to it, you can
Yep,
learn so much of how you're
absolutely,
perceived, right?
absolutely, absolutely. But that vulnerability, and I know that's hard, right? That's one of those soft skills, and we talk about that even in the wake of pandemic and COVID, and how that's kind of shifted, what we need from good leaders today, right? We need them to be a little bit vulnerable and more caring, right? And more in tune with what their employees might be grappling with, outside of work. I think all of that's important, and to me, it's a sign of a good leader,
Yeah.
someone who's willing to flex their style a bit and be what they need to be in the moment for the employee who is under their charge. To me, that's what good leadership is, not having this kind of one singular approach about, how they manage their teams and engage with their teams, but truly become a situational leader and one that's more flexible to understand each individual team member and really try and work to meet their needs and be what they need as a leader for that individual so that they again can bring their whole selves and bring out their best work.
Yeah. Wow. Kay, thank you so much. You
Oh,
brought
thank
so much
you.
to the table. And I can
Sure.
tell you this, I remember the first time I met Kay, she was already well into her career, and she was doing a presentation at one of our national conferences for HR. And you've always been impressive. Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Oh, so kind. I
Well, you have,
appreciate that.
yeah, thanks for being a part of this. You have a great
Absolutely.
day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. This has been another leadership lesson from Rain's World. If this kind of learning whets your appetite, leaving you wanting for another helping of this kind of content, visit me at getlifeandbalance.com.